So, ladies and gentlemen, I know we've already been over the Batsuit. I've kind of reacted to when Matt Reeves dropped the actual Batsuit camera test. I've been over when he dropped the Batmobile reveal the other day with Robert Pattinson standing there with this kind of strange look on his face. But either way, there's been some love, there's been some hate. But today, I want to defend the Batsuit to all the naysayers out there. I just want to get right off the bat though, like everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You can dislike this suit for whatever reason you want, whether it's for this, that, or the other. Same with the Batmobile. But today I want to go over the reasons as to why it is the way it is, and all of these kind of really strange criticisms of like, he's a billionaire, why is he getting a car or a Batmobile like that, or why is his suit like this, and stuff like that. And this video is about me going in depth and breaking down what we know about the Batman in terms of his suit and why it looks the way it does, and the Batmobile and all of that good stuff. I kind of want to counterbalance everything at the same time as well, see where a lot of people are coming from with their criticisms, but we all know in fandoms these days not everyone's going to be happy. But either way, let's start with the cow. So the first thing that came out was the camera test from Matt Reeves, and I think the majority of people were okay with the suit. If not, it goes from okay and above to like really pleased and beyond. And then of course there were people below the belt just being like, what the hell is this? This is like nothing compared to Batfleck and things like that. And trust me, I get it. People make comparisons. When there's a new Joker, of course you're going to compare Joaquin to Heath Ledger and so on and so forth. When there's a new freaking Batman, you're going to get a new freaking Batsuit, and you're going to compare that to the last iteration of the Snyder era, which of course Ben Affleck's Batman was based on one of my favorite iterations of a darker Batman from The Dark Knight Returns, kind of Frank Miller vibes. So when you get this one, and it seems a bit more makeshifty, which is literally the whole purpose of where things are at, just kind of spoiler alert for this whole kind of video, I get where people are coming from. But first of all, let's compliment it. It looks like the kind of Arkham Knight inspired-esque suit. It's armored, it's kind of like extruding out of his torso. It's not like a flat-skinned one from Ben Affleck's Batman or other iterations, or even Christian Bale's Batsuit from the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy is armored, but it's not as I said, it kind of extruding out of his chest. But obviously Robert Pattinson's Batman comes with that bit more armored approach. I don't think really many people had a massive issue with this. If anything, it all looked nice. The collar looked nice. If you would have told me beforehand that they were doing a collar, I would have been like quite apprehensive, to be honest, because you could pull it off. I would have said that, but I would have been worried about how it would have come across. But lo and behold, I think bottom line here, most people were happy until it started going to his face. Now, Robert Pattinson, if you ask me any day of the week, even before when, you know, there were rumors of him being in the line for Batman, that he is a Bruce Wayne. He looks like a Bruce Wayne. He's got the chin for the cowl. He's got everything under the sun. He's a great actor. Screw all you people just saying, I mean, he's got a sparkle, you know, Twilight, this, that, and the other. He's done more than Twilight, come on. But even I, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw the cowl, I was like, okay, he doesn't have to have a chin strap, I don't mind that. But it looks a little bit, you know, kind of leathery. And that's not necessarily mega bad. It's just that it's not necessarily what I imagined. I didn't hate it, but I didn't necessarily love it. So I get that. I get that. Then the stunt photos started to come out and people were really going in hard. And I think this is due to a lot of maybe naivety of a lot of a fandom. People giving their opinion, which of course they can always do, but without, I guess, educated kind of understanding of how stunt suits aren't the same as real suits. Maybe they didn't like the suit in the first place, on top of not really knowing that a stunt suit wouldn't be the exact kind of quality of the one Robert Pattinson himself would be wearing in filming scenes. So I personally don't mind it again. However, there were obviously more concerns yet again, because this gave us an even better look at the suit compared to the camera test Matt Reeves gave us, with a very low lit red lighting of Robert Pattinson's first reveal in the Batsuit. So I remember when these Batbike photos first came out, and I thought, well, I still like it. I still like it, but the cowl looked kind of really shiny. It didn't look so much leathery anymore. But to be honest with you, and I would like to think this isn't me being a big Batman fan, because, you know, me being a big Batman fan doesn't mean I can't dislike something. Looking at these photos, yet again, in full lighting, I don't mind Bruce wearing this suit whatsoever in this movie. I think it looks good. I don't really understand where people are coming from where they're saying this is like the worst Batsuit. Of course, I understand the wrist guards there. Like, people are saying, okay, that's questionable. I agree. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, so why is there lines there? And we'll get onto that in a second as to why the Batsuit is looking the way it is. The pants, if you will. You know, they're more like tactical kind of military gear. We'll get onto that in a second. People were kind of, I think, criticizing it on that kind of term, but yet again, all of these criticisms I keep bringing up are, I get they're warranted, but I think people are not necessarily understanding the setting, the premise of this movie and where Bruce is at in his life. But does that make it look bad? I don't really think so. I really don't. And I think that bat emblem and just this photo in general, even though it is still a stunt suit, looks good. And he's not wearing a cape because when you're riding a freaking bat bike and filming like that, you can just add the cape on and CGI. Like, the people were saying, this is the first Batman without a cape. Like, really? Even though he wore a cape in the camera test, but we're just gonna ignore that. Like, that I think that says enough about some people in the fandom and what they have to say about when new reveals come out. This also had like lenses or goggles, if you will. Now, I still kind of believe this doesn't mean white eyes or anything like that. I think it was just because it was raining and maybe the stuntman had that there, so he just, even though he fell over anyway, it kind of means he would be able to see a little bit better. I could be wrong about that. This could still be on Batman, I suppose, when Robert Pattinson is obviously in a scene when we're seeing the movie. He might have something that slides down, but I still doubt that because, yet again, in the camera test, when you go right up to that cowl, it's just a leathery kind of S-cowl and you see the open eyes. Like, I don't think that has inbuilt technology underneath the leather, and I don't think the cowl will be changing that much in the movie, if at all. I think for sure we're going to get Batsuit upgrades, so yeah, I'm just going to assume that is just for practicality reasons when filming on set. But let's go over the core of this video. We've kind of gone over the chronology of Robert Pattinson's Batsuit reveal, if you will, so far, but what is it mainly that people are questioning? So far, I don't see anything wrong with this suit personally. I get how everyone has different flavors and tastes when viewing something. Every fan has their right. It doesn't mean you're hating on something. Everyone has in their imaginations of what they kind of expect something to be. It doesn't mean it should be that way, but everyone can have their own feelings when it comes to something they love and a character they love. But personally for me, not that I love everything about this suit, but I understand where it's going, and for the most part, I really, really like it, especially the main gist of this Batsuit gives you the presence of goddamn Batman, and it's in a new kind of more armored Arkham inspired, and there's many inspirations for this suit kind of way. But I think there's a big failure of understanding here from a lot of fans in that they don't really understand that this Batman is in year 2 of his career. This Batman is Batman, and as I've said in many recent videos, yet that doesn't mean he's graduated to be Batman yet. He's gonna be running around in the suit, so to speak, maybe not the actual definitive suit that will actually be the Batman of Gotham City. He's got many trials and tribulations that he's gonna go through, and that's one of the main attractive things about this movie I can't wait to witness. I think that is gonna give such a compelling kind of story to this film that Matt Reeves is going for. And yes, we have been in early versions of Batman's career in other films, but it does kind of skip over a lot. Like, he's been given stuff by Lucius Fox straight away in the Nolan films. Of course, I'm not getting rid of any learning curve in those films or any kind of character development or story arc, but I'm just saying this film and this trilogy, this direction from Matt Reeves is really going to get into nit and grit of how hard and how many learning curves there's going to be for Bruce Wayne as Batman. And they're going to demonstrate that through also just what he's got available at the get-go. So let's start from the top. Those wrist guards, like what is that? Where are the batarangs? I mean, you could argue maybe he has tiny ones in those little belt pouches he's got, you know? But no, I think, even though he's got the bat emblem, and I think it's a good argument, well, if he's got the bat emblem, why wouldn't he have fashioned batarangs out of that? Good question. He could still have batarangs, but I'm going to go off on a limb and say, just like a lot of people already have been aware of or guessing, that those little lines you see on his gauntlets are tactical kind of ninja throwing spikes. I think there's another name out there, but that is what Bruce is probably going to use in terms of what he will one day use as batarangs, because yet again, Bruce has been going out. There's rumors out there that he's dealt with maybe Penguin or a few of Gotham's crime families, but no, he hasn't dealt with Scarecrow, hasn't dealt with Two-Face, Joker, or anything like that. This is really gonna spend, I keep repeating myself at this point, but a lot more time in that period of time in Bruce's life. So they're not going to bother giving us a massive origin story or anything like that. That's why it's in year 2 of Batman's career. But this is why he might not necessarily have Batarang. So he's got to throw freaking ninja throwing spikes out of his, wrist gauntlet there. And I honestly don't mind that. Of course, I would love to see a Batarang, and that might come 3/4 of the way through the film. And people have come up with the idea many a times that in the Batcave and things like that, we might see many pieces of different kind of things in the midst of being experimented upon. Maybe Andy Serkis's Alfred is developing a Batarang, or either way, Bruce Wayne doesn't, I think, at this point, I think it's fairly obvious to have a Lucius Fox. That may come in the second film or the third film, but everything right now that you're seeing, and I think this should explain a lot of people who are critiquing it, is made off of his own back. Literally Alfred and Bruce. Just imagine that. Imagine making your own Batsuit. I think he's done a freaking good job there, and since obviously they're not going to necessarily go for an origin approach, who knows if they will bother showing any of the montage of his training. That's a whole other thing. I doubt it. Who knows? But those ninja throwing spikes, for example, well, I'll take a guess of where he got that idea from, his training, and that's why he'll use them. But one day he'll be like, oh, Batarang, why not do that? And honestly, the idea of seeing Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne and Andy Serkis's Alfred as a lot more of like, their own discovery of, okay, right, we're doing this vigilante thing, so how are we going to improve the suit this time? He's been out, and he comes back to Alfred saying, no, this cowl needs adjusting, I think I want to do this, and everything like that. It is fascinating to me. I really feel like you couldn't really get more of a perfect premise for this Batman movie. I know obviously a lot of people are dissing it off of these reasons, but as I said, I feel like that's a failure to understand where this movie is at. So there's other critiques, like these tactical pants and this tactical belt. Well, that's not the same as Christian Bale's like armored leg. Is it such a bad thing that he's wearing kind of military tactical pants? I get some people will be like, but he could be shot in the leg. Well, so good of Ben Affleck's Batman in a way. It's just, I feel like these nitpicks, whilst I understand at the same time of where it's coming from, just because he's wearing this doesn't make it look bad. I think that looks fine. And if anything, yet again, guys, he's making his own Batsuit. And to be honest, it's not probably as newbie as it looked when he first ever put on the Batsuit, like day 1 of year 1. This is year 2. So obviously this is going to improve along the way. You can see these kind of straps up his thigh. We've got a bit more of a makeshift bat belt there, a tactical belt with pouches on it, instead of like the, I don't know, Christian Bale yellowish bronzy belt and other iterations of the bat belt. That will come one day for sure. And I can't wait to see what Matt Reeves comes up with further production in other movies for Robert Pattinson's Batman. But yet again, to me, this is one of the most attractive things of this movie, like how everything is just made by him. I can't wait to see Bruce making his own Batmobile, the Batbike, fashioning everything, and then one day maybe getting a helping hand if they actually do even want to tread the waters of someone like Lucius Fox. I mean, for crying out loud, on his wrists, or what you would call the wrist blades or wrist fins, whatever you want to call them, on Batman's freaking wrist that would stop like swords, or like when he's falling down, like in when he's trying to save Ra's al Ghul in the Nolan series, it allows him to kind of like carve in. They're freaking straps, guys. They're straps. That should say it all. And if you're really gonna criticize, wait, what? He's got straps as the blades on his arms. Wait, this is a terrible bat. Do you not see where they're going with this? So if you don't like that, fair enough. You wish maybe that they weren't doing this kind of phase of Batman, and you wish they just fast-tracked it to like a fully fledged Batman. But that, maybe this isn't for you then, or maybe you're just gonna have to wait to see the film to digest that a bit more in terms of it impressing you. But for me, as I keep saying again and again and again and again, of course I would love to see blades there, but I really think that's really cool and creative in how he's just got the straps, obviously, as a part of, putting his suit together, and it happens to come out towards those lengths of what one day his blades will look like, or the fins on his arms. And maybe we'll see it in this movie where he's like, hey, what if I actually when we upgrade the suit, put blades in my wrist? That could be really helpful. And then when you kind of translate that vibe with the whole rest of the film, that adds this really kind of primitive almost feel to Batman. Now, I love that we're getting a whole film dedicated to. Yet again, you can really feel my passion for this through the screen and through the camera, I'm sure. And maybe you may think I'm biased for that reason, but maybe I am. I just love the idea of this kind of setting in Batman's career. And as I said, no batarangs, you got straps as the fins on his arms. His cowl isn't necessarily mega protective. It may be padded a little bit, but it seems to just be more for concealing his identity. But that doesn't mean it's without explanation. That doesn't mean it's without justification, and it doesn't mean it won't improve. But let's move on to the Batmobile, because that's another thing that kind of spiraled me to want to make this video. A lot of people are like, if you're a billionaire, and the same thing applies for the Batsuit, why would Bruce make this little car? It's like they just grabbed something out of Fast and Furious and it's rubbish. I get where people are coming from with that. You know, it is reminiscent of a car like in Fast and Furious or something. But does that make this a bad Batmobile? No, because this car is quite literally, you guessed it, a car that he has pimped out himself with Alfred in the Batcave, and I love that idea. Now, this does match up to the rumors that we heard and how it's more of a muscle car. It does have a Batmobile feel to it. Granted, I think in recent years, a lot of audiences' minds or generic fans who may just feel like they know a lot more about Batman than maybe what they realize have maybe got used to the idea, and I don't mean to sound patronizing when I say that, I just think a lot of this criticism comes off people's expectations and maybe basic understanding of thinking, oh, this is the way it is. But that's not necessarily the truth. But it's been something we've been used to seeing for so long, in that the Batmobile is meant to be like this tankish-esque thing. Now, the Batmobile on BVS or the Snyder era, amazing. The Nolan series Batmobile, like a tank, amazing. The Tumbler was cool. But they're all very heavy-duty tanky stuff. That doesn't mean that the Batmobile wasn't actually a kind of modified, really modified car that Bruce has actually pimped out himself and made it into this aesthetic bat design of his own making. And that's exactly what Matt Reeves has done with the suit and thus the Batmobile. I do admit, as cool as that engine is, it is very exposed. And I can't wait to see how that goes down in the film if there's a load of Penguin's goons or whatever firing at the car and it gets disabled. Who knows? But yet again, guys, year 2 Batman got a lot of learning curves to establish and learn, and that's something I think that this movie is very deliberately doing. In some of my earliest The Batman 2021 videos, I've said I love how Matt Reeves describes this film, of that this is Bruce Wayne, this is Batman, who goes through such a story that this arc allows him to go through a transformation. So not only physically are things going to change along the way, because obviously this is at the kind of the beginning, not quite beginning, but basically beginning, year 2 of his career, it will also mentally do that. So everything in this film, and I feel like if I could put it down to one word, is transformative. I think that's the word I'd use. It's just like this. I know we've had moments like that in previous films, as I mentioned earlier, but they've almost been like chapters. This is a whole film of a chapter of what we've got in previous Batman iterations, where they kind of gloss over that. So imagine a world where this billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne has put on a Batsuit, made it himself, granted, quite literally made it himself with Alfred's help, then fashions a car, pimps that out in many different ways to go very, very fast, possibly armor, bullet protected and all of that stuff, and he goes around Gotham. I think that would look something like this. That's why the car looks the way it does. Yet again, kind of in like somewhat of a conclusion here to just answer all of this, is just the expectations, and maybe even though people may have heard where this is in year 2 Batman, people are still yet again assuming that it should look different, when if they really think about it a little bit more and dial it back a little bit, it wouldn't make sense if he had a proper Tumbler or BVS looking Batmobile and made that completely himself. I really loved the somewhat realistic approach to the mindset Batman is at in this early career of his, and how that application of his is being put to a realistic outcome to that. I think a lot of this will settle down in terms of the criticism of what Matt Reeves is going for when a trailer comes out, and it really does establish the time and the premise of where this Batman movie is at with everything we've discussed, because then I think a lot more people will tone their expectations to be like, oh, that makes sense now, rather than they're just seeing Batman set photos and being like, wait, what? And I honestly think as well, this has the potential to be one of the best Batman movies of all time, and you know, when it develops into that trilogy, because it'll feel very satisfying, and a long arc that Matt Reeves will establish with 3 movies from beginning until what Pattinson's Bruce Wayne or Batman will look like by the end of the 3-film arc. This transformation he'll undergo it will be a real journey. It really will, and that will be reflected in not only the mental state and the story that will be provided, but also the aesthetic and the development of Batman and his gadgets, I guess, and the prowess that will establish throughout each and every film, and I can't wait for that. So honestly, the design of the first film and what we're getting so far, who knows, in several months time we might get another set leak where he's got a different Batsuit on. That would be really cool as well. It will just show this ever-growing evolution, and I think a lot of people need to kind of understand that a little bit more. Ultimately, I would just love to know where you stand on this in terms of knowing and understanding the vibe and premise of this movie, and where exactly the director and everyone creatively involved is at with this movie, and what they're trying to do with that and apply to that to the characters, because it makes sense to me. And if you still don't like it, I would love to know your reasons as to why. Maybe it's just something as simple as you didn't really want a film with this kind of premise. Maybe you wanted more of a Ben Affleck Batman, because there's a lot of Ben Affleck Snyder era fans who really liked where the story was going that far into his career, and I completely understand that angle. But from the perspective of this is a billionaire Bruce Wayne and this is what we could come up with, then I feel like that's been more than enough shut down now with the information we have about this film. But other than that, guys, like this video if you did enjoy, subscribe for more Batman updates. Of course, there'll be like in between kind of bonus videos like this, but whenever there's a new update, I'll be sure to let you guys know about it, anything that is really worth knowing. But other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.